Good morning, everyone. Uh, I would like to thank for this invitation. It is a pleasure for us to be here and to explain briefly our ideas of what is happening and the financing of CON, some details of what has been happening in this organization in Americas as only one region. I'm going to share screen first and foremost. What is the CITEL? Maybe for the ones that they don't know what it is part of the OAS. And last year we celebrated our 30 years since it was created. It was a specialized organization, and the technology and for the information. They promote the coordination, development of TIC in Americas, and in general to make an efficient use of these mechanisms in order to develop economically and socially the countries of this region. The, the main objectives that we are dealing with within the committees, the consultative committees, which are two, and one within that process, we have communication ideas about communication, and we are working on some projects that are oriented directly to mitigate the gap. And through these initiatives and resolutions, we hope to mitigate that digital gap.
In this way, in connection with technical standards, promoting that we have new technologies entering the development of these countries. Something important that we bring to the table is not only to make decisions or recommendations, but additionally to have technical guidelines to help countries implement these recommendations that we made, those guidelines established throughout the region. And in line with these processes, we make recommendations that are specific of studying, modifying policies in line with what is required in every single country where there's technical assistance. Within this process, we need to advocate the position, some agreements that are made in 35 countries of the Americas, 33 of which are participating. We are considering that in these regions, we have committees, we have delegates from the OAS, the Organization of American States, and associate members. That is the industry that is represented by corporations that are providing satellite, telephony, mobile or cellular services. And there are other platform providers such as Meta, Facebook, Google, among others, satellite companies, other consultant firms, and we have 102 members incorporated, and these are the stakeholders. So we can ensure to deal with these topics. That would be spectrum allocation, preventing piracy of contents, and understanding the regulatory framework in line with the needs of digital transformation across the Americas. If we see this from the point of view of how well we are represented in the ITU in the Americas. As you can see in the map, we are going to see how we divide it in three regions. We have Region 2, that is the Americas, and precisely in November and December in Dubai, we held the Radio 23, that was the World Summit, and held great discussions and topics. And we have 289 IAPs, Inter-American proposals, and this is a mechanism by which we had the agreements in the regions that need to be advocated in other regions. In Europe, the Russian Confederation, the Asia Pacific area, among other regions, and 86.25% of these proposals that we carried were part of the regulation of broadcastings that could be applicable across the world. If we analyze what is happening in the region, it is important to indicate that we can have different sources and the progress with fiber optic accounts for 56%. But despite the innovations with these households, we have a deficit of connectivity. However, some of the companies are leading this initiative, such as the networks in 5G, Brazil, Chile, and the Dominican Republic, that have excelled because of being the largest deployment of 5G across the region. And there are other countries that are having important projects of universal connectivity, especially those countries that they have larger territories, for example, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia. These countries are working along these lines to have communities connected, especially in those areas, remote areas, in poor, the most vulnerable sectors of society, and investments that are being made in the region through new technologies or systems seeking speeds or backup solutions that are higher or better than what we had in the past. And this effort or initiative is aimed at closing this digital divide. And we have many challenges ahead of us. And we're speaking about 38 or 40% of those that do not have connectivity because of these challenges. And this is because of the elevated cost of service, or that it's difficult to carry that infrastructure to those remote locations, or probably they are not aware of how this technology is going to be useful for them using these applications or mechanisms to reach connectivity. What were the efforts made for this purpose? Well, precisely was seeking recommendations. Here we have some statistics from different sources. Here we have Resolution 2966 adopted by the OAS with 21 guidelines that motivated updating policies and regulation in the region to ensure that these services, like fifth generation mobile or new technologies, or even the existing technologies, could get to remote places. This was reflected in the resolution, and that's why we have the uplines through consultative scopes that we have in CTEL. This is basically what the information that you're going to see in these topics because you are dealing with advanced material. Precisely what was achieved in the World Conference last year through regional proposals Let me tell you that we are defining and we are working on on the spectrum frequency, not for 5G, because this was done before. This is advanced 5G and sixth generation. So through the World Radio Conference in 2023, we allocated frequency band or additional frequency band to the mobile service with a primary character exclusively dedicated to that service, and we identify other medium range bands for landlines or mobile services that are going to help not only the existing of 5G but also part of the development in the future of sixth generation. And 5G, advanced 5G is an updated version of what we had implemented so far, and that this is the possibility of having speeds that are better or better benefits through the use of this technology. So we're speaking that advanced 5G, in line with what was argued with manufacturers, I believe that they are going to have it ready in the market by the end of this year, and it's going to facilitate the drive to attain these speeds in certain specific zones or applications where they really need them. The 6 gigahertz band is not part of this band, is for EOT or for these sorts of implementations. And this local area network or radio are used for mixed reality and telemedicine of high speed internet. So that is how through these mechanisms we may have access to metaverse and other topics like performing a surgery online, because we require bandwidth and important data that will require that we could use appropriately in 3D worlds that are imposed rendering, that we could use that speed and the bandwidth that we require. Another important thing is that we had a series of frequency bands that would allow to have on maritime issues and in flights to have communications during flights when you're crossing two continents or when you're crossing the Atlantic or an ocean, because this is to hold communications is very, very complex with restricted bandwidth, and you can be very successful with the allocation of these frequencies. And we're noting that from the point of view of security, in aeronautical services, the World Conference allocated a spectrum that is called VHF to the aeronautic mobile service via satellite and determine conditions to protect the existing use. What does it mean? Well, it means that we can retransmit communications that are landline to pilots through satellites that are not geostationary and will allow planes to be in contact with traffic controllers in other parts. It is important because sometimes it's not possible to locate the plane, and through an ongoing communication, we can perform a follow up on an ongoing basis. Additionally, we have the development process that was adopted with satellite communication systems. What we'll bring to the table? Well, to have satellite communications that in a way could ensure availability of data and instruments that are low latency that could help us with weather forecasts or disaster management mitigation. and to allow for more advanced satellite communication. And these satellites will provide us with land systems, and the communication of satellites will reduce the latency that we have nowadays. And multiple applications that will benefit from this, whether it is security, army, providing this ongoing communication or redundant communication to have access to information and to have the necessary mechanisms to observe land and to have larger transfers of data. These progress will be available soon, and the future topics would be addressed in the World Conference of 2027, where they're considered important elements defining other spectrum bands for mobile services. We have different bands: 1.4 gigas, 7 gigabytes, 14.0, 14.08, 15.35 gigahertz, and there are some other spaces that are important for satellite, and links between space and space of different types of satellites in the 1.5, 1.6, and 2.4 gigahertz. Likewise, attributions were made to other frequency bands for non-geostationary satellites in mobile services at low speeds, that's for the Internet of Things, and likewise other bands for direct connectivity between mobile services through satellite and those equipment that we have for mobile systems. This is what happened in 4 weeks. During the conference, I cannot summarize so much information, however, is what we expect. This is the most relevant information that I have summarized, defining the spectrum for 5G, advanced 5G, having more coverage, follow-up, and security in between satellites, and to have better connectivity, not only for flights, but for voyages. This has been my presentation, and looking forward to being there in the future. Thank you. As I said, I hope to be in another edition. Thank you very much.